Hi, this is Dr. MJ coming to you from beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. This is the Women in Dentistry podcast, where we feature women in dentistry making waves and leading the industry through the next decade. I am your host, Dr. Mary Jane Hanlon, a former dental assistant, dental hygienist, and now dentist. I'm very pleased to introduce you today to Miss India Chance. India is a registered dental hygienist, certified infection control educator, authorized OSHA and HIPAA trainer, and the founder of Learn to Prevent, a dental compliance company that provides continuing education for dental healthcare providers to improve their knowledge of infection prevention and workplace safety. Nationally, she has trained hundreds of clinicians, and her mission is to equip them to deliver the fastest dental visit possible. Her expertise has been recognized and utilized at the highest level, with her serving on various committees for the CDC dental and industry projects. In 2023, India's outstanding work in her field was recognized nationally when she received the Emerging Dental Infection Control Leadership Award from the Organization for Safety, Sepsis, and Prevention, a respected and accredited organization. This accolade further underlines her dedication and commitment to promoting safe and compliant practices within the dental profession. It is now my pleasure to bring you to my interview with Miss India Chance. India, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. We have been doing phone tag and setting up meetings and rescheduling them, but we finally got it together today, and I'm so happy that you're here. I can't wait for you to tell and share your story and how you got into dentistry with our audience. So without any further ado, just jump right in.
Okay, well, I am excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation. My name is India Chance. I'm a dental hygienist. I've been in dentistry going on 30 years, and I've had a long. Well, thank you. Thanks. It's been quite an interesting journey. I started in the 90s in dentistry, and it was very different than it is now. And I've definitely seen the ebbs and flows of the dental industry and things like that. I was working in dentistry when HMO insurances kind of came onto the scene and things like that. And so I've seen a lot of changes, and some for, obviously for the better, and then some not the best. But in my journey in dentistry, I became a dental hygienist, and I did that for a long time. My passion was public health dentistry, so I did a lot in the local community. I'm from the Maryland area, and at the time I was living in Baltimore because that's where I went to school, and I just started doing a lot of public health dentistry in Baltimore City. And as I was doing a lot of that, I thought, I feel like there's more for me to do. I have more potential. There's more for me to do. And I couldn't figure out what that was. And I was always asked to work on different grant projects and things like that. And I just started to explore a lot. And I realized that I wanted to work in the non-clinical space, but I just couldn't figure out what it was. And so I took a position as a sales rep for Listerine. I worked as a professional educator for Waterpik. I was just doing a lot of different things. And one of my friends came to me, a colleague, and she's like, hey, there's an office that needs some help building the dental hygiene department. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't, what are you talking about? I said, she's like, they need a consultant. I said, well, first of all, I'm not a consultant. And I said, and I don't know if I would be good at that. And she's like, you're one of the only people I know in dentistry has really good business acumen, but also, India, you've been a consultant for years. You just have never gotten paid for it. And so
and she's like, all women do. Absolutely.
Yeah. She's like, you just give away advice all the time. You just never get paid for it. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you bring up a good point. You're right. So I just decided to take a leap of faith, and I went in there and did the pitch. They hired me, and I was able to really help them build a successful dental hygiene department. They were a new office, and it worked out really well. But one of the key components of me helping them was I required them that if I was going to do this, I wanted to help them offer their employees continuing education. And I said, it's very important that, your team gets equipped and, expand their skill set and things like that. And they were totally on board. And so they were like, okay, you handle that part. And so I started, getting different trainers and presenters and everybody coming in for lunch and learns and different trainings in the evenings and stuff. And one day the owner came to me and she said, we need our annual OSHA training. And I was like, oh, okay, great, perfect, great. And she's like, here's the number to the person that's in our local area. Give her a call. And so I did that. And we were talking and she was sharing everything that she does and, telling me, how it's going to work if we work with her and all of that kind of stuff. And at the very end of the conversation, she said to me, what's your end game? And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And it was a buzzword for me. And I'm like, nobody's ever asked me what my end game was. And so I asked her, I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with your life? And she happened to be a retired dentist who transitioned out of dentistry and was doing compliance full time. And she said, well, this is what I did. And she shared her journey. And I was like, oh my God, it really checked a lot of boxes for me. Her journey, it was, still in dentistry. She was able to utilize all of her education. She worked in a space where it really worked with her personality. And her and I, as we began to talk, I started to see there were a lot of similarities. We were, type A personalities. We like rules. We like regulations. We like everything spelled out. And she said, listen, I'm going to be retiring and this area is going to need someone to take my place. And this would be a great career. And she said, you could really build something really great here. And I thought, oh, wow. And so I said, look, let me digest this conversation and let me see what's going, see if it works for me. And that's what I did. I digested the conversation and I thought, this is it. Because what I realized from the consultant job that, the project I was working on, I didn't want to work like long-term projects with clients for 6 months to a year on the, I liked it. I liked the consulting aspect, but I didn't really like the particular topic area that I was focused on. And when when I spoke with her, it was like, all these I heard of the angels singing that I was like, oh my God, this would be perfect. Because I can go in, I can consult, I can talk about compliance and then I come back next year. And it just worked really well. I loved the whole aspect of dental safety. That's really a big passion of mine, and making sure that the patients are protected, making sure that healthcare providers are protected. And it just worked for me. And so I just dove in head first. I got so much education in this space. And from there, Learn to Prevent was born. And that was back in 2017. And I've been, steamrolling ahead ever since. So that is kind of, how I got to where I am right now today.
How exciting and what a great opportunity to be presented with. But you don't get those opportunities unless you're prepared for them, and you were prepared for it. And she saw that. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'll take a step back in time. How did you get interested in dentistry to begin with? Were you young? Did you just fall into it? How did you get interested?
Well, I was going to University of Maryland right out of high school. I went to college out of high school, and I was majoring in business and advertising and marketing. And it just wasn't resonating with me. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this. I was a people person. I thought this is great. And it just was not clicking for me. And my mom happened to be working. She worked she was a state employee. And at the state, in our state, we have an Office of Oral Health. And she happened to be good friends with a couple of the people that worked in the Office of Oral Health. And one in particular was a dentist there. I guess, you're at work and you're talking about your children or whatever and what they're doing. And she happened to mention, yeah, my daughter, because they were asking her, the coworkers and people that they would all go out to lunch with were like, how's your daughter doing? How's she doing in college? And she's like, nah, she's not really, she's not really feeling it, too much. And I guess the dentist, he said, you should tell her to go become a dental hygienist, get into dentistry. It's a really great career for a woman. And, she could work part-time and then she could have a family. And, he's, old school kind of guy. And he's like, it would be great for her. Women always do great when they go into dentistry. And, and so my mom, I guess she was like, okay. So she came home, she told me about it. And she said, he said he'll talk to you and give you a couple pointers and give you some advice on kind of how to get started or maybe start to explore this. And that's exactly what happened. I got on the phone with him. He told me to take a semester off, I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to tell my mom I'm going to take a semester off.
Yeah.
And, but she was okay with it, which was crazy. I was like, wait, what? And, he told me to go get a job as a dental assistant. And
Perfect.
He said, see if you like it. He's like, see if you like it first. He said, if you like dentistry, he's like, go become a dental hygienist. He said, you can become a dentist if you want. He's like, but it just depends kind of on what you want to do. He said, but you could become a dental hygienist. You could make really great money. And at that time, I would say at that time, as far as salaries and job demand and all of that kind of stuff, was similar to what's happening now. I mean, it was really, hygienists were in high demand. And so in the late 90s. And so it just was like, I was like, okay. And that's exactly what I did. I went and became I got a job as a dental assistant and at an endodontist's office. And he taught me a lot. It was all on the job training. I mean, now can't do a lot of that in our state, but a lot of the things that he taught me, I learned it and I loved it. I loved dentistry. I loved helping people. It clicked with my personality and it was great. And so I decided to get on the path of becoming a dental hygienist. And that's exactly what I did.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I knew there had to be a connection there somewhere because we don't just jump into a profession. We're being introduced to it, by someone.
Right.
So that's awesome. And I think best piece of advice you were ever given. My mother said the same thing to me. I told her at 14 I wanted to become a dentist, and she looked at me like, okay, really? Because nobody in my family had ever gone into medicine, and
sure.
That is the single best piece of advice I've ever been given by my mom or anyone. And she said, just go get a job and find out if you like it first. Yeah. And I got to be honest with you, the day I opened that door and walked in, I was in love.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was instantaneous. So I don't, for how you can know that at 14, I don't know, but I think that it is a huge blessing because I never faltered from that goal. I didn't accomplish it as early as I wanted to. Lack of confidence.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Same thing. I just never I set my sight on that goal, and that was it for me. So
yeah, no, I agree. I think very similar kind of story for me too. I mean, I fell in love with dentistry, which is funny because you talk to people and they're like, really? You're in people's, and I'm like, I don't know. And it has been one of the best decisions that I've made in my entire life, I would say. I'm not, I don't regret at all that I went into the field of dentistry. It has served me and my family very, very well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So tell us one thing that the audience would be surprised to know about you.
Well, we're talking about women in dentistry and leaders, right? So when I was in high school, our high school would not let girls play soccer. And myself and a bunch of other girls came together and we were able to establish a girls soccer team for our high school. And it is still in effect to this day. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we all came together. We were like, wait, the boys aren't the only ones that get to play soccer. So that's a fun fact about me.
So let me ask you some questions about that. Was it challenging to go through the politics of the school administration to get that done?
Oh, sure. Yeah. We had a lot of pushback. There were some barriers there. There was a lot of politics for sure going on. They didn't want girls to get hurt. We might get hurt. oh, you don't have a coach, nobody's going to coach you guys. And they made us do a lot of things that I don't think they would have had the boys do. We had to find our own coach. We really had to do things that really should have been established by the school and the administration.
Yeah.
But they made us as students, as high school students. I was in ninth grade. I was a freshman, and you're 14 years old, 15, and they're making us do these tasks that probably most likely now today would be done by the school. And so, yeah. And, at first there wasn't a lot of confidence that, we were going to be successful once we finally got the team established. And, we had a great season, our first season, and successfully after that, the whole time I was in high school, we did great. But it was just very interesting, but it was my first real experience with adversity, being a female, being a girl, and, it not being a level playing field between us and the boys soccer team. So but yeah but
What
it's
a
still in
great
effect today.
leadership lesson you see
Oh yeah.
from that. Having to do all the tasks and still sticking with it no matter what. Congratulations to that too.
Yeah.
You and your whole team, I'm sure made a lot of difference in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah. And I think that experience really served me just, as I graduated high school, and even coming into the situation with getting into dentistry, because as it's a huge commitment. You have to stick with it. You are on a path when you see all your friends and people graduating. And, for me, I stopped after 2 years of undergrad, and I just totally pivoted to something totally different. So it was kind of like starting all over. And all my friends are like, people started graduating, and I still was taking prereqs to, get into dental hygiene school. And so it was just really, I think that experience really served me to just stay focused. You have a goal, you can do this. And it really gave me the confidence. When I look back, I realize it gave me the confidence. I don't know at the time that I thought that experience really contributed to my success in becoming a dental hygienist, but certainly it definitely helped me.
Well, it's a great life lesson, right?
Right. Exactly.
So bringing up confidence. Now, when you look back on your life, do you find that you had confidence growing up as a young girl? Obviously, you must have had some kind of mojo, because you wouldn't have taken on this task had you not understood that your strength as a woman or a young girl. Did you have confidence as a young girl, or did you develop it?
Well, I think I had confidence in some areas, and then other areas I was a little bit more insecure. I think growing up, my mom, I was raised by a single mom, but she did an excellent job at making sure that my brother and I were heard, and what we had to say was important, and we were paid attention to in a lot of ways when we had concerns and things like that. And she had an open door policy, stuff like that. So, and her biggest thing to my brother and I growing up was, if you don't understand something, ask a question.
Yeah.
And you keep asking a question until you get the answer that you need. And so I think that seed that she planted really helped me to understand that it's okay to ask questions if you don't understand, but then it's also okay to voice what's going on. I don't understand. Can you explain that? Can you explain? So that kind of helped me and prepared me really to be confident to ask a question or to explore or to inquire. I think, of course, there were other areas that I was a little insecure, sometimes as a woman, as a girl, you're a little insecure with looks and things like that. But I think as far as my voice, I've always kind of, I used to get in trouble in kindergarten and first grade on report cards. She talks too much. So So it's so funny that now I saw something on social media the other day, and they said if you got talks too much on your report cards when you were little, what is your position? What do you do now? And I had to chuckle to myself because I'm like, well, I'm a speaker, so I'm a professional speaker, and so but yeah, I think growing up, yeah, I was pretty confident in my voice. I knew that what I had to say mattered. But I had that kind of response from a lot of adults in my life, like they paid attention to what I had to say. And so that really helped me as I got older. I ended up in high school becoming the student government president. So I had a lot of those leadership experiences growing up. I just kind of was that, I was a social butterfly. So it kind of was, you know, pretty obvious early on that, I was going to speak my mind. So, yeah.
Great thing to have. And, on social media too, they say when your daughter gets the comment that she's awfully bossy, she's going to be a great CEO someday.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So what do you think is the best single piece of advice that you've ever gotten? And we talked about that earlier, but what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
No matter what anybody else says, you still walk through the door. And so for me, I kind of took that to heart when my colleague came to me with an opportunity that was out of my comfort zone. And I just remember, my mom used to say that. I've had several mentors say that to me growing up. But they always said, just walk through the door. Because if you don't walk through the door, you don't know what's on the other side. And one thing I learned from walking through the door, specifically in my journey to learn to prevent, is that if I would have never walked through the door, this opportunity that I was given to develop a dental hygiene program, I would have never gotten to the learn to prevent door. And so, that for me has served me very well. It's not always easy. It's out of your comfort zone. It's scary. You don't always know what's on the other side. But I think that it is important for women to always walk through the door because you just never know what's going to happen on the other side. And, when you get through the door and if it doesn't work out, to me, it's not always you failed. There's a motivational speaker, I can't remember his name, but it talks about failing forward. Yeah. And so it's always a stepping stone to get you to that end goal. But definitely that's been kind of the mantra. Like I'm always going to take an opportunity. If I see it, I'm going to go with it, especially if I feel it in my gut and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just go for it. I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to stay. And if it doesn't work, it's fine. But I know that I'll learn one or two lessons that I can use somewhere else in my life.
Well, and if you don't go,
yeah.
Number one, you have regrets.
Yes.
Number two, you don't have experiences that could help make you stronger and better, even if it doesn't work out.
Yes.
But I always say if you go through the door or, using your analogy, if you go through the door, you never know what you're going to get. And
I know.
it could be the best thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, for so many years, I'm doing clinical and I know that I have more potential. I know that I'm more than what I'm doing here. And that's not to knock because I think that some people love the clinic environment. And and don't get me wrong, I love it too. But I just know my personality. I just wanted to do something different because I had other skills outside of dentistry that I wasn't able to tap into being a clinical dental hygienist. And I thought to myself, well, what else is out there? And I just have to say, like, by doing that, by getting out of my comfort zone, I found what I had been searching for so many years, you know what I mean? And it's all because I made the decision to just take the opportunity and walk through the door. It's just been, I'm just so fulfilled in what I'm doing right now. In so many areas of my life, it's really kind of spilled over and into other areas of my life. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you. Like it could just change the trajectory of your whole entire life completely. Absolutely. In such a great way. Yeah.
Now, who do you think has had the biggest impact on your life?
I would say my mom. I
Mhm.
think she's fearless, and she just
Love it.
always, she never really cared about what people think. If she was one of these, she is one of these women that she would go against the tide, if everybody else was going one way, but she knew, nope, this is what I want to do and this is where I want to go. She would go there. And I think that was a really good example for me to not listen to all the noise and
Mhm.
the chatter when it's not a popular decision. And, me in dentistry, starting your own business, that is not, for dentists, it's different. You start your own business, you open up a dental office, that's kind of okay, this is what, but for as a hygienist to step out of your hygiene clinical role and to say, okay, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to go, it was not a popular decision. And oh my God, you're walking away from, a steady income, and, what are you going to do? And also too, when you're starting a business, sometimes you're doing like two or three other things that can create some income so that, clearly, so you can pay bills and do what you need to do for your personal life. And it's not the norm. It's not the norm, it's not the typical 9 to 5. You're doing a couple gigs. I was a professional educator. I was temping. I was doing like two or three things at the same time. And that's not very popular, in our society. It's like you go to college, you graduate, you get the 9 to 5 job, you get married, you have these and so I just kind of went against the norm with this. And I didn't have a ton of supporters in the beginning. Even my mom a little bit was very nervous. She knew that, she was trying to, I could see it. I could see that it was a struggle for her because, you want your kids to do well, you want them to be successful and all that kind of
And
stuff.
you don't want them to fail, right? But
Right, right, right,
failure is a
right.
part of the whole thing.
Right, right, right. Exactly. But I think looking back, like I had to do this. And now that I'm here, I know that every single thing I went through, every single position I held was all part of the plan for me to be here. And so now, of course, my mom's like, "Oh my God, this is so great," But yeah, I mean, it's hard because you're going
It's
against the
scary.
norm. Yeah.
I
Oh,
call it the sheep
oh,
mentality,
oh my
right?
gosh. So
Like
scary.
everybody
So
just
scary.
follows the pack
Yes,
and they don't
yes.
want to step out of their comfort zone. And if you don't
Yeah,
step out of your comfort zone, you can't
yeah.
get anywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I had colleagues like, so what are you doing now? You always have a lot going on. You're always doing stuff. What's going on now? What kind of job do you have now? That was kind of you know, what I was hearing from my dental
Oh,
colleagues and
yeah.
stuff like that. And, I even had people say to me after I started Learn to Prevent, "Oh, India, you need to be doing something. You need to focus. You can't have this niche. You can't do that. That's not what you need to be doing. You need to be doing all these other things." And I just had this, it was just in me to like, nope, stay focused on compliance, make sure that you learn as much as you can, you build this, build. And I tell you, by listening to that and listening to that voice, which my faith tells me that it's God speaking to
Yep.
me,
Yep.
and 2020 came, COVID hit, and I was the only one working
Yeah.
because everybody needed infection control and OSHA training. And it was just so interesting to see the shift. And so for me, there was a huge silver lining with COVID. I had a lot of colleagues tell me that I needed to get out of the niche of infection control and compliance. I needed to expand. I needed to talk about a lot of India. You're never going to get speaking gigs. You're not going to, you're not going to grow. Your business isn't going to grow. But I just knew I needed to stay on the path of compliance and infection control. And when COVID came,
Mm.
my business exploded and I was the one working while a lot of my colleagues were not.
Yeah.
And that's because everybody needed infection control training. Everybody wanted to know. And it just snowballed from there. And it's been, nonstop from there. And so it was just one of the best decisions. And just all of it ties in, having the confidence to trust yourself, to believe in yourself, to stay focused on a goal. Again, there's that, stay focused on your goal. You're going to achieve it. All of that came into play as I've, built my business, and I'm still building it, but it just was, it's just very interesting. It's not easy, but, it's doable. And
Absolutely.
if you just stick with the goal that you have, like you said earlier, you just don't even know what's waiting for you on the other side. I mean, it's just can be this just amazing thing that happens in your life. And now I can't even imagine my life without doing that. Like I
Doing
can't
this.
even imagine doing something else. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So have you had an aha moment when you realized, oh my God, this is exactly what I was meant to do?
I think one of the first aha moments is when I was providing an infection control course and an attendee came up to me and said to me, she said, I've been in dentistry 30 years. She said, or no, 40 years. She said, I've been in dentistry 40 years. I've had to take this class many times. She said, you're one of the best speakers. You are doing exactly what you were meant to do. And she said, you've been placed on this earth to be an educator and you need to continue. And for me, I was like, I was speechless because,
Yeah.
I'm still kind of new to the whole speaking, but I knew I loved it. But to get that kind of feedback was really kind of great for me. And I thought, she's right, because I love this. Like, I love what I do. And, I'm going to continue. And so to get that personal one-on-one feedback for somebody to say to you, this is why you were put here, things like that. And then I've had other moments, I've had, because part of what we do in my company, we teach CPR, and I've had several, students text or email and say, I saved a life today
Wow.
because of the training that you guys, that you did our class, and I saved a life today. And for me, I know I'm right where I need to be, save one. I mean, to say that you say, somebody saved a life based on the training that you provided is huge. And so if I've done nothing else, if I could, help somebody save one person's life, I'm good. I don't need to do another thing because I know that so it's just been interesting. And I like to share this too, that you don't realize how many people you really actually touch through what you do. And it's not just always the people that you see face to face. It could be strangers that you never meet in your life that you actually help. So having a platform and spreading a message of dental safety has really made me understand that, this is affecting and helping the whole entire community.
So
And
it's
that's
called the
really why I'm
butterfly
here.
effect,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
just a little ripple effect in the water,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you have no idea the
Yeah.
extent it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I want to share something with you because I feel strongly that you need to hear this. That woman telling you that was God saying, you are right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you
Just
for that. I received that.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. An obstacle or a challenge that you've overcome that you're really proud of.
I think just starting my business, I think getting started, starting a business from scratch. Even though this woman, she gave me a lot of advice and everything, I literally started my business from scratch. And I've been able to scale my way out of the operatory. And by creating this business, it's sustainable. We're growing. We're looking at, potential franchising, those types of things. And so for me, it has been a huge obstacle because to start a business, um, most businesses fail in the first, 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, and what's interesting is we've never done any official marketing. It's all been word of mouth.
Wow.
And so to build a business like this from scratch, it was a huge obstacle because there wasn't a budget. It was all self-funded. We're a debt-free company. And so to be able to do something like that, in a time where COVID took out a lot of businesses, COVID affected, um, I think being able to come out of COVID and be successful, that in itself has been a huge obstacle. And so, really that's, just starting a business and getting through the first couple of years and then getting hit with COVID and being able to go through that in a way where we grew, where other businesses were folding. I think that was one of our biggest obstacles that we were able to overcome.
Huge. All right. How about a guilty pleasure or a secret dream?
I would say my guilty pleasure is watching trashy reality TV sometimes. I watch
Just
Keeping
the
Up.
Disconnect, right?
I watched the Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's the most trashiest TV I've ever seen sometimes. But like reality shows, I'll, just to literally not think about anything else, like just mindless, So I'm like, oh, let me turn on a reality show because I literally don't have to think about anything else because I'm always, my brain's always running. And so, yeah. So trashy reality TV. It's my guilty pleasure.
That's awesome. How about a personal motto or a mantra that you live by every day?
I am who God says I am.
Ah.
That's that's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. So it doesn't matter what anybody else says. That's who God says that I am.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Now, you are going to be talking to young women who are potentially coming into the world of dentistry. What piece of advice would you give them?
Don't limit yourself. Think outside the box. I think that it's important to start with the end in mind. And so if that is becoming a very successful practice owner, start with the end in mind. If that is to become a successful entrepreneur and in whatever that is, you create a product, you patent a product, or you want to be an international speaker, or you want to be a researcher, whatever the case may be, start with the end in mind and start on that goal the minute that you graduate from your program, because then you're going to begin to take opportunities that actually keep you on the path to your end goal. So I would say start with the end in mind.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I want you to go back to your 12-year-old self. And what piece of advice would you give her?
It's going to all be okay. It's going to work out. You can do it. And don't be so hard on yourself.
Oh, God, yeah. That is a good one.
Yeah.
I think we all need
Don't
to
be so hard
that.
on yourself.
Even at my age, a little bit older than you, I still constantly have to remind myself, stop being so hard on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going to be 50 soon, and I really had to have about a year ago, I had to have a conversation with myself, with the self-talk, because I realized I'm like, wow, you're very unkind to yourself. Like you are not kind to yourself the way you are to other people. You've got to be more kinder to yourself and not beat yourself up so much. And I think that just comes from being an achiever, wanting everything to be, perfect, wanting everything to be good. You want, professionalism, excellence, all of that kind of thing. But you can fall in the trap of the negative self-talk.
Yep.
You can fall into the trap of really being mean to yourself. And that just really actually hinders you more than helps you and supports you. And so there's nothing wrong with holding yourself to a standard, but I think we have to be careful with how we speak to ourselves and the thoughts that we allow to swirl around in our heads, because those can actually be very negative. And if you wouldn't say those things to another human, you shouldn't be saying those to yourself. Yeah. So I think we just have to be careful with that.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I just learned a trick and I'm going to share it with you, and hopefully the audience can watch this. But I have these little bracelets on, right? And one of them says believe, one of them says grateful. I'm trying to remember to be grateful every day for everything I have, because I am extremely grateful for that.
Yes.
And believe in myself enough. In fact, my license plate is I believe in you.
Oh, nice.
So my brother-in-law, who just left, just said, I have a little Volkswagen convertible, and he said, that one you should put, I believe in me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, you take these bracelets. When you say something negative, you stop. You snap the bracelet, and then you switch it to the other side to remind yourself not to do that again.
Oh,
and when
wow.
it goes to the other side, it's driving you crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because
yes.
it's on the wrong side.
Such a good idea.
Reminds you something physical that reminds you, be nice. Just be nice.
Yeah.
And the person that we need to be nice to the most is ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I share that with you so that you maybe
That's
get
great.
yourself a little bracelet. You remind yourself to
I love that. Yes, I love that. I love that.
All right. So last question. How do you define success?
Well, I'll just say what success for me is. Success for me is having fruitful relationships with the people in my life, family and friends, being able to nurture those relationships. I think that that is part of success for me. I think having peace is part of success. And I think really going after what makes you fulfilled is part of success. Now, I personally believe that if you begin to do that, I think sometimes, depending on what makes you happy, the income will kind of match that. But in many cases, I know a lot of people that have a lot of money, but they're completely they're not happy. But I think success has to do with the relationships, the people in your life, how well you treat others, how well you are treated by these people in your relationship. And I think that having peace in your life, having a balance, I think that's success. Now, I don't know if I'll ever achieve complete balance in my life. But I think that looking at all the areas of like overall wellness, I think it's important. And I think that's part of success, like the time that you're spending with people, the time you're spending with yourself, taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all of that. I think that's being successful.
Love it. It's a great definition of success. It doesn't have personally for me, it doesn't have anything to do with money either. Right. And I love that. And I already know the answer to the second part of this question. Do you feel successful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt. Yes. I think because I took my focus off of income, because a lot of times in our society, that's really the focus of and definition of success. But when I took my focus off of that and I put my focus on give first, serve always, I think that is where I began to see the successes in my life grow. And yes, I absolutely feel successful in every area of my life. That doesn't mean that there doesn't need to be any improvement, because everybody's always
to be set, isn't
it? Right. Yeah. But I think I've taken that pressure off myself, because I will say, once you get to a certain income level, you start to look around and you're like, well, I actually do have everything I need. Like, what else is there? You know what I mean? Those types of things. And my son makes me laugh all the time, because he says, Mom, we've got first world problems here. Like when you look at when he's like, we're really blessed. We're really, we're good, and I thought about like, you're right. And so I always have to, like you said, remind yourself that you're grateful and stuff like that. And look around and I'm like, every area of my life is good. And so for me, that is the definition of successful.
Excellent. India, I have enjoyed our conversation so much today. Thank you so much for taking time out to be on the show. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, which is going to be on our YouTube page and the Apple podcast situation where you can find us, but where can they find you if they want to reach out to you and have you come and speak to their team?
Well, our email address is info@learn2prevent. If you see it right there, learn with the number 2prevent.com. Can reach out there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, India Chance. So certainly reach out, learn2prevent.com. If you forget anything else, you can go to our website and you can reach us there. You can reach me there. And that's pretty much how I typically get contacted, but I'd love to hear from whoever, even if you just want to have a conversation and chat.
That's awesome. Thank you so much again, India, for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you so much for listening to the Women in Dentistry podcast with Dr. MJ Hanlon. If you like our show and want to know more about us, check out our website, thewomenindentistry.com, or please leave us a review on iTunes. Join us for our next episode as we bring you another amazing woman leading the way for the next generation.